I'm going to talk today about asthma and immune function and how air pollution and other environmental agents can affect immune function and thereby affect asthma. So childhood asthma is often associated with allergies, and exposures to various environmental agents may increase the risk of allergies and asthma. And together with colleagues at Stanford and UC Berkeley, I've been involved in studies of the impact of air pollution on regulatory T cells, so-called Tregs, and their effect in asthma. So these regulatory T cells are basically the controller cells of the immune system. And their function is controlled by a gene called FOXP3. And FOXP3 is a transcription factor that can be either upregulated or downregulated with return in terms of its expression. And it's been felt that T regulatory cells play a role in asthma and that environmental factors may affect the differential expression of FOXP3 and thereby impact how much Treg function one has. So we have been following a cohort of children in Fresno with asthma and in collaboration with Kari Nadeau at Stanford, where she's been following a cohort of kids in the Palo Alto area. We have looked at Treg function and FOXP3 expression in these two cohorts. And the purpose of comparing these two cohorts of kids is that Fresno has a lot of air pollution and Palo Alto doesn't. In the upper left panel of this slide, you can see Fresno asthmatic kids, FA, Fresno non-asthmatic kids, FNA, Stanford asthmatic kids, SA, and Stanford non-asthmatic kids. And the FOXP3 expression in the T regulatory cells from these kids goes from very low in the Fresno asthmatic kids to high in the Stanford non-asthmatic kids. Moving over to the upper right panel, you can see that T regulatory function, measured on the x-axis, goes down with FOXP3, actually goes up, with FOXP3 expression. So the more FOXP3 expression one has, the better T regulatory function one has. Now, what are the consequences of having low Treg function? That's shown in the bottom two panels. The one on the left shows asthma symptoms with 0 to 4 asthma symptom scores on the x-axis with T regulatory function on the y-axis. And with lower T regulatory function, you have increased asthma symptoms. And with lower T regulatory function on the right lower panel, you have lower lung function. So that FOXP3 expression determines T regulatory function, which affects asthma severity. And we have shown that the inflammatory cytokines that are found in the blood of children with asthma in Fresno are higher than the inflammatory cytokines in kids with asthma in the Stanford area. And these inflammatory cytokines are those that are associated with increased allergy. And we went on to try to understand the mechanism by which T regulatory function is decreased, and we thought there might be an epigenetic controlling mechanism. And by this we mean that non-genomic determinants of gene expression are involved. And the determinant that we studied was methylation. So if CpG groups on genes are methylated, the genes get turned off. And so the Fresno asthmatic kids, shown on the far left data points on the lower graph, have greater methylation of FOXP3. So that is associated with less FOXP3 expression, which means there'll be less T regulatory function, lower T regulatory function. And the Stanford asthmatic kids have much lower methylation of their FOXP3, and therefore FOXP3 is expressed and T regulatory function is good.